Right now on Matter of Fact, gridlock in Washington. Congressional moderates say it's their turn to drive the agenda.
If we can establish a way of working together, we can make their lives better.
They cannot ignore us. They really can't.
Why 100 members say it's time to put the brakes on their own house parties. And a housing crisis that's putting a squeeze on the middle class.
We don't have a balanced housing policy in the United States.
Why is affordable housing unaffordable for American families? Plus, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the opera? The supreme lesson of finding harmony with your political foes.
I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. No repeal nor replace for Obamacare, but there is a reset underway in Washington. Pockets of bipartisanship are breaking out in this particularly partisan town. The Senate Health Committee announced it would hold bipartisan health care hearings next month in an effort to stabilize the insurance market. This following an impassioned plea by Republican Senator John McCain, who's battling brain cancer, denouncing the push by both parties to win at all costs.
We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle.
Without much fanfare, a group of Democratic and Republican congressmen have been meeting to find common ground on issues that divide the parties. Connecticut Congressman Jim Himes is the chairman of the moderate New Democrats, and Pennsylvania Congressman Charlie Dent is co-chair of the moderate Republican Tuesday group. And both are working in their districts this week, so they join me remotely. Nice to see you both. Thanks for talking with me. In the op-ed that you wrote together in the Washington Post, here's a quote. Compromise may not be glamorous and may not play well on cable television, but it is an absolutely necessary component of successful legislation. And as I read that, I thought, yeah, I wonder if there are other forces at work here, which is it actually is kind of sad that it's news that we're talking about the idea that you guys are going to work together across the aisle. Like, isn't there something a little sad that that's a story?
You know, it is true that in a very polarized political time in which emotions run high, and let's face it, on the Democratic side, you know, there is an element of my party that says if you work with the president, if you compromise your ideals, if you don't shoot for every single thing you want, you are not a true Democrat. And, you know, we'll take you out in a primary. And so, you know, I think a lot of us are trying to remind people that success in this business, success is when everybody leaves the room a little bit grumpy because the outcome is a negotiated outcome. And by definition, is going to give both parties and people from all over the political spectrum a say in the outcome.
The only thing I would add to that, Soledad, is that both parties are struggling with this battle. You have the purists and the pragmatists, and there's this never-ending tension. But I'll tell you, I think there are some great opportunities for some bipartisan cooperation, specifically
Where are they?
On healthcare and infrastructure, and I would hope maybe we could do something on tax reform. We first must provide for some budgetary and market stabilization. What I mean by that is that we need to deal with a bipartisan, bicameral budget agreement, which we all know will happen, must happen. And we also need to deal with the debt ceiling to provide some level of market stability. So those two things will require bipartisan solutions, but we need to deal with those things quickly and then pivot right onto whether it's infrastructure or maybe some bipartisan health care fix or tax reform.
Charlie and I are really interested in the question of, can we start there? Can we start at a place where, you know, things like the budget or the possibility of not raising the debt ceiling, which is a real threat to our financial stability, where we sort of start with a plan that plays to the middle rather than sort of trying to satisfy, you know, and again, I don't mean to pick on the Republicans, but they happen to control the place right now, you know, that spends so much time trying to satisfy the Freedom Caucus.
How willing are both of you to push back on your own leadership?
Yes, we can absolutely do this. I feel that we just put forward a bipartisan proposal on health care. We just put it out there, the Problem Solvers Caucus, and, you know, we make reasonable changes, things that the Republicans can walk away with feeling very good about, and things in there that the Democrats can walk away feeling good about. And ultimately, I think in that case, the leadership will ultimately come to us because they need us. They need us on the debt ceiling. They need us on the appropriations bills that will be passed at the end of the year and the budget agreement. So they cannot ignore us. They really can't. And they would do that at their own peril.
Final question for both of you. How do you think Donald Trump and the discourse that I think it's fair to say that he has brought to Washington, D.C., and maybe stirred up among people in Washington, D.C. on both sides. How do you think he's affecting your parties?
Well, I would be less than honest with you if I didn't say to you that I think there are a lot of Republicans who are very concerned, about the tone and the temperament coming out of the White House. We would all like to see a lot fewer tweets. I have nothing against tweeting. It's just the substance of some of these tweets. This is an example, this transgendered issue. We were working constructively with the Defense Department, Secretary Mattis, on a review and trying to, kind of tamp this issue down. And then the presidential tweet, undermined it. And so this type of inflammatory rhetoric is really an incendiary rhetoric. Isn't always, it's not very helpful.
On the Democratic side, it's also kind of raised the rhetoric as well, which I think could be problematic for the Democrats.
Yeah, I think that's right, Soledad. Trump really poses a political challenge to my party that echoes back to the presidential election. It is so tempting for the opposition, and we are in opposition, to just say, Trump, Trump, Trump. Look at what he tweeted, look at what he says, look at what he does. And I'll tell you, that's a trap for the Democratic Party because at the end of the day, we lost a lot of voters that we should not have lost in the last presidential election. If we Democrats are getting distracted by the president's morning tweets, there will be political hell to pay for the Democratic Party.
It's a good way to end. Congressman Charlie Dent, thank you for joining us. Congressman Jim Himes as well. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Soledad.
Thanks, Soledad.
You bet, guys. Thanks a ton.
Next on Matter of Fact, middle-class families living on the edge of homelessness.
More people will be on the streets.
Why is affordable housing disappearing? And later, art imitates life in a supremely pleasing way.
I can't tell if you're joking.
Yes, I know.
Does this Supreme Court friendship prove a point?
Nearly 40 million people in the United States live in housing they can't afford. According to the Census Bureau, more than a quarter of all renters spend at least half of what they make just to keep a roof over their heads. President Trump's proposed budget doesn't offer much help or hope for those Americans. He's called for cutting more than $6 billion from HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that includes killing $3 billion in grant programs that provide housing assistance to low-income families and some veterans, and pulling back $30 million used to revitalize and develop poor neighborhoods. Erica Pothig is a former assistant secretary at HUD under President Obama. She's now director of the Urban Policy Initiatives at the Urban Institute. It's nice to see you.
Thanks for talking with me.
So how do you define affordable housing?
Sure. So the definition of affordable is actually in statute, and it means paying no more than 30% of your income for rent or even a mortgage.
So when you think about somebody putting in affordable housing, it's a sliding scale, meaning?
Yes, it's benchmarked on your income. So what's affordable to you based on your income. So the extremely low income person who pays for their rent, they pay no more than 30% of their income for rent.
So this proposed budget from President Trump would eliminate essentially a lot of affordable housing for the poor. What would the impact be in your assessment?
Well, first and foremost, one of the largest cuts that they want to take is to the housing voucher program, which provides rental assistance to America's poorest households. 200,000 of those vouchers would be cut. What we know from research is one of the most immediate impacts will be homelessness. More people will lose their housing as a result of these cuts. More people will be on the streets.
How does providing low-income housing improve the economy? That's an argument you've been making, and I think it sounds just very counterintuitive for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, here are a couple of the different ways that it benefits society when we invest in affordable housing. When someone's homeless, whether they're an individual or a family, it means that they're cycling through other systems that are very costly, like the emergency room, like jails. That adds up. Supportive housing can help to save taxpayer dollars by stabilizing the housing of people who face chronic disease or chronic challenges. the rent eats first. When we pay too much for housing, it means we're crowding out other investments in our kids, whether it's books to help them learn, whether it's healthcare, dental care that will help reduce the pain that kids feel, whether it is transportation to jobs.
You're with the Urban Institute,
Yes.
but how much of your work focuses on rural housing issues? I mean, as cities become more and more gentrified, all these people that you're talking
Yes.
about, they're going somewhere.
Yeah.
They're going into rural areas. What are the impacts on rural housing?
For the first time this year, we were able to look at rural America more specifically. And what we learned is that rural America faces some of the very same affordability challenges that urban America faces. So notwithstanding the name, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, the agency serves more people in rural America than the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which also has a rental assistance program, especially for the poorest Americans.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll all watch where this budget goes because it could have devastating effects on people in urban areas,
Yes.
but also, as you point out, rural areas as well. Erica Pothig, nice to have you. Thanks for talking with me.
Coming up next, how do you buy health insurance if no one is selling it?
We will see some impacts here, more dramatic impacts.
Could your state find itself without coverage? And later, a presidential commission wants your voting record. Should it have access to your information?
The nation's insurance companies have until September 20th to either pull out of the Obamacare exchanges or commit to participating in 2018. So what do you do if you want health insurance, but there's nobody to buy a policy from? It's a very real problem for people in Nevada. 13 of the state's 16 counties, plus one independent city, will have no insurance plans offered. On January 1st, 8,000 people in Nevada will be left uncovered. Benefits for others will be cut back. Why? Insurance provider Prominence Health pulled out of the exchanges. Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield reduced coverage to the remaining 3 counties, with Anthem calling the insurance market volatile. Heather Korbulik is executive director of the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange. Heather, nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
When the insurance provider pulled out, what exactly did they tell you as their rationale?
The insurance industry relies on understanding risk, and when they don't have an idea of what their risk is going to look like, and they don't understand if their cost-sharing reductions will be paid or if people will be incentivized to be buying insurance, it creates a certain uncertainty that insurance carriers just can't identify what the risk will be, and they get very unsteady and very uncomfortable.
So then you think there's a direct line between the president's risk to take away the subsidies and what you're seeing in your state?
Absolutely. The federal instability has created instability in Nevada for those individuals who are out in rural communities and for those individuals who are in our more urban populations, with rate increases up to 38% average rate increase in Nevada right now. We're seeing that uncertainty play out not just for those people in those bare counties, but also for our urban populations. How
do you encourage a provider? What does encourage? What does the word encouragement mean? Is that a payment? I mean, how do you incentivize them when the other factors are clearly not going to change?
Well, you're hitting on a really clear point here, which is that Nevada has very little leverage. I mean, most of the controls are in Washington, D.C. right now, and whether or not cost-sharing reductions get paid is entirely out of the control of our state. So, we are looking at and having conversations with carriers about what they need from us and what's within our control in order to incentivize them to come into our marketplace.
What defines stability, and how do you get stability? Everyone always talks about we got to get some stability in the marketplace. What's stability, and how do you get it?
One of the most important parts of stability in the Nevada marketplace is really encouraging a healthy risk mix. So you don't just want to incentivize sick people to access insurance. You want to have healthy younger people in the risk mix. So, yes, the individual mandate is an unpopular part of the Affordable Care Act. However, it does incentivize young, healthy people to be in the market, and that brings down the costs for everybody else who participates. So without enforcement of that individual mandate, I think we'll see even more inconsistency and a dicier risk mix, meaning more just sick people accessing health insurance and young, healthy people staying out of that pool, which will drive up costs for other people.
Are you hopeful?
I'm hopeful, but it's been a rough 6 months.
I was going to say, that was the biggest sigh I've ever heard anybody about to answer a question line. That was like, sigh, I'm hopeful. So it's been a struggle.
I think I share in the fatigue of my colleagues across the country, and for health policy analysts and for healthcare reporters. We are. It's been extremely dramatic 6 months in an area that is usually somewhat boring. We're living in a different world, and I'm hopeful that things will start to steady and that we'll be able to give some assurances to our carriers, and that we'll be continuing to be able to provide affordable care for Nevadans.
Heather Korbulik, nice to have you with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up next, state voting rolls under a microscope. Should a presidential commission have access to your voting records? And later, they sat at opposite ends of the ideological bench. What this justice learned from disagreements with her Supreme Court bestie.
Back to our weekly feature that we call We're Paying Attention Even If You're Too Busy. Wins in court this week for the Presidential Commission on Election Integrity, that's chaired by the Vice President Pence. The group is facing at least 7 federal lawsuits over its requests for voter records from every state, records that include sensitive information like voter names, date of birth, portions of Social Security numbers, voting history, party affiliation. The issue is voter privacy. Should the commission be required to assess possible harm to voters if information about them is released? Well, 2 federal judges said the commission is not a federal agency and therefore is not required to assess privacy risks. Now, the commission is spending a year looking for evidence of voter fraud. Dozens of state election officials question the commission's intentions, many accusing it of trying to suppress the vote. Many of the states say the commission's going to have to jump through some hoops, either paying for data or filling out additional request forms. So, since the commission is not a government agency, states are not required to turn over any information. Still ahead, court battles over whether or not the commission's going to be required to abide by open meeting laws to ensure transparency in their discussions. So we'll keep watching.
When we return, the Supreme Court's originalist and his 5-foot nemesis.
He's not my enemy. He's my friend.
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the value of getting past political differences.
It's rare in Washington, D.C. these days for political opposites to be close friends, but Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia were, despite their often fiercely divergent opinions. Ginsburg and Scalia, who died last year, were even subjects of an opera which poked fun at their different views.
I say, he's not my enemy, he's my friend. And then we sing a wonderful duet.
That is the secret to my charm.
So now a new play about the relationship between conservative Justice Scalia and a fictional liberal law clerk. After seeing it, Justice Ginsburg spoke about how the play mirrored their friendship.
We are different, we are one. Different in the way we approach legal texts, but one in our reverence for the institution we serve, the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Constitution of the United States.
Today, she says, she remains hopeful because of the enormous changes she's seen in her lifetime, including the end of segregation in schools and the end of the ban on interracial marriage.
Someone I knew and loved dearly said that the true symbol of the United States is not the bald eagle, it is the pendulum. And when it goes too far one way, you can look forward to it moving back.
Words we can all get behind. I'm Soledad O'Brien. We'll see you back here next week on Matter of Fact.